Hey guys, my name is Emily if you haven't seen my face before, and today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read the month of September. I did actually read 9 books this month, including a couple audiobooks and ebooks, which is actually quite a bit for me for a school month, but I did have a little bit over a week at the beginning of September before school started that I really just tried to hammer out all of the reading that I could do, so I did finish quite a few books just in that first week, which really helped add to the number of books that I did read this month. I don't think I'm going to be reading 10 books a month every single month while I'm still in school now that I am fully getting into the school year, but I will definitely still be reading because it's one of my favorite hobbies and I cannot just not read. The first book that I read this month is Don't Look Back by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and this is the first thriller that I read in the fall season. I'm kind of starting my thriller bandwagon here. I love reading thrillers, especially in the fall, so I was really excited to pick this one up. This book is about a teenage girl who is found by the police after she's been stumbling through the street, no clue of who she is, where she was, what she was doing. She has no memory of anything. And the police take her in and she eventually gets sorted out. They figure out who her family is, but she still doesn't have any memories. And she finds out that her best friend was also missing and has not been found. And she knows that she's the only person who knows the truth about what happened to her friend. And so she's trying to figure that out while also trying to remember everything about herself, who she is. But that's just the basic premises that happens very early on in the book. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I didn't see the ending coming, which I like in a book, but at the same time, it was kind of one of those endings that it seemed to just come out of nowhere. There weren't really a lot of signs leading up to the ending and the big reveal of what everything happened, so I wasn't a big fan of that, but I still did enjoy the book. I thought the writing was really well done. I thought it was really believable that the character was a teenager. The way she thought and acted was very, very accurate to how I might have reacted as a teenager if I was in that certain situation. So overall, I did enjoy this one, and I would recommend it for anyone looking for a thriller. The next 2 books that I read this month are both in the It Girl series, starting with the number 6th book in the series, which is Tempted. And this book had quite a few different new relationships forming, as well as current relationships ending. So there was drama, which I love. If you're new to my channel and haven't heard me talk about books before, I love drama, so I loved that aspect of it. There's also a reveal in this book of something that happened in the previous books that I won't mention because this is a series and I don't want to spoil it. But keep that in mind, there was a little bit of a reveal, and there was also great representation of female friendship in this book. I loved the relationship between the female characters. It was great to read about, and it just made me really happy. So I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't blow my socks off great or anything, but I definitely enjoyed reading this. The 7th book in the It Girl series that I read this month was Infamous. And this book took place over Thanksgiving break, so you got to see the characters outside of the school setting, which was interesting, but it wasn't my favorite out of the series. It kind of felt like a little bit of a filler book. There were some things that are definitely crucial to the plot line, but at the same time, I didn't feel like it was entirely necessary to have the whole book just around Thanksgiving break, so I wasn't a huge fan of this. I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5 stars just because I didn't enjoy all of the plot lines that were going on, but there were still some funny aspects of the book, and I did still enjoy the characters. If you haven't read the It Girl series before, and you are looking for something that has drama and relationships and all that kind of goodness, I would definitely recommend it. If you're a fan of Gossip Girl, Pretty Little Liars, anything like that, this one is going to be good for you. It is an older series, so not many people are talking about it anymore, but I am still really happy that I decided to start reading it because I have not regretted it. It is one of my guilty pleasures, and I love the series. The last physical book that I have to show you guys is Wonderstruck by Brian Selznick. And this book is told in 2 different perspectives. We follow a young boy who is searching for his father and a young girl who is searching for an actress. And the story is told in pictures and text. So the girl's perspective is all pictures and the boy's perspective is just normal text, which is a different format for a book, and I thought that was really interesting, which is the main reason I decided to pick this book up. I was a little bit disappointed with this book. I didn't find the plot lines to be overwhelmingly interesting or anything like that. I was expecting this big reveal as to how the 2 characters were connected, and they are definitely connected, and that is a reveal in the book, but it just wasn't a reveal that I really cared too much about. The plot lines just seemed to be a little bit dead for me. They weren't boring, so I ended up giving this a 2 out of 5 stars, but they weren't super thrilling or engaging and didn't really make me feel anything for them. So because of that, I wouldn't recommend this for everybody, but if you do like that format and you are looking for something that goes around those lines that also deals with deafness, then maybe you'd want to pick this one up. Also, do we like the darker look today? I did want to play with kind of a reverse cat eye look, and I am actually really liking it. I don't usually wear black eyeshadow or black eyeliner, but I'm kind of feeling it. Okay, so I did end up reading 2 books by Taylor Jenkins Reid this month, and they were the last 2 books that I had to read by her before finishing all of her books, so I can proudly say that I have read every book that she's written, and I am definitely a big fan of hers. The first book that I read by her was One True Loves, and this was about a woman named Emma who was really content with her husband Sam. All was going well in her life until she gets a call from her husband Jesse, who had already been presumed dead, but apparently he is not dead and he's very much alive and he wants her back. So there is quite a lot going on in this book in terms of relationship dynamics. I did really enjoy the love triangle in this book because it wasn't a traditional love triangle. I've never read the trope of your husband coming back from the dead, so I have to say that was new for me and I did enjoy it. I did end up giving this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars just because I loved that dynamic, but at the same time I would have liked to see more of her relationship with Jesse and Sam. I felt like the book was a little bit short and I would have really liked it if it was more fleshed out and we got to see more of her relationships with both men. And at the same time, there were quite a few things that I found were unrealistic, which kind of took me out of the story, but at the same time it is fiction, so what do you really expect? But overall, I would really recommend this for fans of Taylor Jenkins Reid. I find all of her less popular books are very underrated, so if you haven't picked those up and you are a fan of her more popular books, then go ahead and read them. The next book that I read by her was Malibu Rising, and let me just tell you, I was so hyped for this book. I was so excited to read this, like, oh my goodness, it's her new release, like how is she gonna top Daisy Jones and the Six? How is she gonna top Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo? And to me, this book was just a little bit of a disappointment, unfortunately. I know that every book cannot top the last, but at the same time, I really enjoyed those 2 books and I was really hoping I would love this one as well. But unfortunately, it was not my favorite. I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5 stars. This book is about 4 different siblings in Malibu who are throwing this party, and the story takes place over 24 hours. There are some flashbacks, but most of the story in the present time is in 24 hours. And these kids are the children, although they are adults, but they are children of a famous singer. And they are kind of struggling with their family dynamic. They all have different conflicts going on. I did really enjoy the flashbacks in this book. Honestly, I like them more than the present time in the book. I really liked seeing the relationship between the parents of these 4 siblings more than the siblings themselves. I just found that story a lot more interesting. If you did really like Daisy Jones and the Six, there are some similarities between these 2 books. It isn't a sequel or anything like that, but those elements are definitely some of my favorite parts of this book. So keep that in mind if you are contemplating picking this book up. And I really hope that if you do, you love it more than I did. I wish that I did love it more, but I did give this a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read this month was The Wife Between Us by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekanin. I hope that's how you pronounce those names. I'm really not too sure. This book follows a woman named Vanessa who is kind of keeping an eye on her husband's new woman. And that is all I'm going to say because this book is a lot better going into it not knowing anything. So there you go. That is my synopsis of the book. I did find that there were a little bit of twists and turns. There were some plot twists that I didn't see coming, and it did keep me engaged most of the book. And I was surprised in the ending, that last twist, that is kind of the big reveal, I guess, although there are multiple reveals in the book, was definitely something I didn't see coming, and it did kind of give a different vibe of the whole book. So I did really like that part of it, but it wasn't as thrilling as I was hoping it would be. I really wanted more suspense. I did give this book a 3.5 stars out of 5, but overall I would still recommend this book if you are a fan of thrillers and you haven't picked this one up yet. Last 2 books that I read in September are both by Sherry Lapina. I hope that's how you pronounce the name. I'm sorry if I butchered it, but I am definitely a fan of this author. This book that I first read, which is Someone We Know, is a book that really got me interested in this author, and now, just like Taylor Jenkins Reid, I just want to read everything they wrote because I am so interested in their writing and the plots that they write. The story follows a neighborhood, and at the very beginning of the book, a woman ends up getting murdered that lives in this neighborhood, and everyone is trying to figure out who did it while also dealing with their own issues and what's going on in their household. There are quite a few characters in this book, but I found it really easy after a few chapters to figure out who was who and keep characters straight, which is kind of hard for me sometimes if there's a lot of different characters, but this book did it very well because it was very clear which character was who, and I picked up on that very quickly. There were so many different twists and turns in this book, which were great, and I love that about this book, but the actual mystery element wasn't my favorite part of this book. It was really the characters and their lives and what they were experiencing in the drama of this neighborhood that really kept me invested in the story. So I did give this a 4 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy it, but the ending I felt like left me a little bit questioning, is there going to be a sequel? There's kind of room for that, a little bit of unanswered questions there. But overall, this was a great book, and it definitely set me up to want to read more of that author's books. The last book that I read this month that was also by Sherry Lapina is The Couple Next Door. This book follows Anne and Marco, who have a new baby. I think she's around 6 months old. And they decide to go to a dinner party at their neighbor's, and they leave their new baby at home. And when they get back from the dinner party, the baby is gone from the crib. So this is also a thriller, and this is also a different trope for me. I haven't really read anything about babies going missing or anything like that, so this one I was really looking forward to as well. And this one was also a really good thriller in my opinion. I enjoyed it the whole way through, and the characters were very intriguing to me because there are a lot of family secrets that were being revealed, which I love. There was drama, there was conflict, there was everything good that I liked in the stories, but at the same time, I felt like it wasn't as great as Someone We Know. And I ended up giving this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The ending was a little bit unnecessary. There are a few things that happen there right at the end that I feel like we could have done without, but at the same time, it was a good book, so I would still recommend this for anyone who does like thrillers. All right, guys, so that wraps up my September wrap-up. If you want to check out the other reading wrap-ups I did, you can go ahead and check out my playlist. I have all of the videos in there that I have done so far on monthly reading wrap-ups. And if you want to, you can go ahead and leave a like, a comment, or subscribe if you're feeling up to it. And I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye. God bless.